Good evening. I'd like to call the regular board meeting for July the 7th to order at 6:31 p.m. And I will turn it over to Mrs. Reverend Bobbitt for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance.
Please stand. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you for just allowing us to come together, to be able to meet, to make the best decisions that we can possibly make for the Glynn County school system. God, please keep our students safe, keep them protected from the coronavirus, and also keep them protected while they're out during the summer. God, all these blessings that we ask in your precious name and pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Bobbitt. Now we'll turn it over at this time to Dr. Spence for the inspiration, which I believe is going to be.
I was going to sing the alma mater for Brunswick High and Glynn Academy for you tonight, but instead we're going to have some representatives from the college come and speak with us.
Just want to grab them and get them now. So.
I guess I get time to sing then?
No, by all means, no.
Use your inside voice. The one inside your house.
Slade. Slade. They're down there.
College, I think Rod went to get them.
Rod, where to go?
They're coming. Never mind. Thanks, sir. Good job.
Get them? Okay. Just tell them, Rod, if they want to come around, just come in the front. Get my money's worth out of Rod today.
Sometimes he's working a while. It's a bunch of, like 20 of them.
48.
Come on in.
Come on in. Come on in.
Come on in.
We got some there.
Good. Yeah, that way y'all can spread out a little bit if y'all want to sit down.
Yeah. And there's another one if we need another.
I'll just stand.
Yep.
I'll stand on this side.
Big grip stand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it. Nobody gives me a seat at my house, so.
We've been sitting back there in the back. Let me say that I have honest to goodness had the best time. Mike Hodges and I have been talking about stuff that most of you all would not even, because you hadn't been here. Hodges has been here as long as I have. He's been here longer than I have because he was born, raised here, went to Brunswick High, went to college out here. So we've been telling stories and I've enjoyed it more than you know. My wife's out of town, so I'm kind of enjoying, no big hurry. Thank you all for letting us come here.
Glad we let y'all come here and hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, y'all go ahead, Dr. Spence. I said he's going to turn it over to you guys to speak. So.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity for us to come and to discuss the Center for the Arts project this evening. And I'm joined by the chair of our foundation board, Drew Brown, and former regent of the University System of Georgia, Jim Bishop, and former chair of the foundation, Mike Hodges. So we're just glad to be here and to let you know that the reason that we're here tonight is because we remain passionate and dedicated to a project that was determined by 2 votes of the citizens of Glynn County to move forward with a cooperative project. And so that's why we're here, because we're still very passionate and enthusiastic about the project. But as much as timelines have been established in the past, we've had to revisit those in light of the pandemic. And so we're looking at some fiscal uncertainties that have been brought about by COVID-19 and are requiring us to pause. So we wanted just to come tonight and talk to you and say that We believe in the importance of this partnership, and we want to make sure that we've done everything we can not to lose something that was voter supported twice for this partnership, without exploring all the paths that we have available. So I know that we're all going through some of the same things, meaning we, the college and the Board of Education and the school district. Unprecedented times related to the pandemic have brought about these significant state funding cuts. The college budget has been reduced by $3.3 million. Enrollment changes may impact the college and the school district. The college may experience upwards of a 6% enrollment decline. There are many experts that say we're probably still 12 months away from a vaccine, and so if we had another year to determine where we are fiscally and how we move forward to honor the vote of the Glynn County citizens, we're asking for some additional time to work together for that. I had conversations with the former superintendent all along this process since I've been at the college. I'd let him know that we agreed we weren't in a position to move forward with an IGA at the time starting in March. So we had put a pause on that to wait for some of those uncertainties to settle. And so that's where we are at this point, to come forward and ask you if we could work together over the next year while we learn more about those fiscal uncertainties and work together on the intergovernmental agreement, be able to provide some direct updates to you related to our fiscal situation. And with that, I'll ask if there are any other introductory comments.
Well, I think just the biggest concern for us is, we're all facing these short-term problems, but we don't want to give up some, longer-term opportunities that we've all fought for the past decade or so. I mean, Mike probably speak of that better than I could. So I think we see this as a model program that we'd like to see not only here in this community for the sake of our children, but also the sake of this community from an economic perspective. This will be the first, Mr. Bishop can tell you this, the first sort of project like this in the system-wide perspective of the university system of Georgia. So again, we'd like to work closer with the board and closer with new administration on making hopefully this come to fruition, which has been our expectation all along. I think there's probably been some gaps in communication along the way, but we certainly are willing to work through those and hope that we can stand together on something that, again, the voting populace in Glynn County has been excited about for a decade now. So,
Can I ask a question? So where do y'all stand, I guess, on the development of an IGA? Because really, I mean, I know COVID has hit us all hard, but this has been an issue that's been ongoing for a long time. We sort of anticipated seeing this well before now, well before February, when the pandemic really hit and geared up in earnest. And we probably should have had this type of meeting way before now. We were relying on our superintendent and others to provide information to us, which, again, I agree, maybe there's some miscommunication this happened, but we still haven't seen a document. I anticipated that even, last fall even. We had a timeline set, and then all of a sudden we set another timeline, a deadline, if you will, and then that passed, and then the phone call started after that had passed without, any document or anything to look at. No idea where you all are coming from, or if you can ever afford it, or where, where we stand.
So when
I think one thing, would you lead sort of Mike through where we were last summer versus, sort of the process that's taking place? Because Marcus and I talked, and that probably feels like to y'all that we talked about an IGA last summer, and then since then, nothing's really materialized, and here we are in the spring expecting one, we didn't get one. You set a deadline for June, didn't get one. So I think the perception is that not a whole lot was going on in the interim, but I think if you can enlighten them on sort of the process USG had to go through.
Sure, I'm happy to. When we received the notification that funding would be available back in the fall, we took that forward to the university system, to the Board of Regents for consideration, because the next step in the process was there was an 180-day clock that started at that time, as y'all know. And so the university system took that up at their November board meeting, and it was after that we began the work. That was the trigger for the work to begin in earnest on the intergovernmental agreement. So at that time, we started working on that agreement. The university system, we agreed would take the lead on that, so we worked with them as a college personnel, and we had communicated, and I worked directly with, my peer, the superintendent here, to let him know we were working on it. It was coming. We do have a draft document, and it has some supporting documents, the land lease. There are really 3 documents that kind of create this entire intergovernmental agreement. And so we were working on it and expected in March to be bringing it forth. So that was only about 3 months' time when it was being, in earnest being worked on. And so at that time, as we were getting ready to share it, that's when this pandemic hit. And so we agreed, as I talked to Dr. Cole, we agreed to put a pause on that and not to move forward and share it at that time, as we continue to figure out, does the IGA need to be, is it impacted in any way by this? Can we go forward? So just to give you a sense of that time, and we didn't start working on it until, December timeframe. We worked about 3 months on it. We're ready to come forward. There's a lot of detail. It's a, as you can imagine, this is a great partnership, but it's a complicated one. And so, but we do have a draft document, and are looking forward to bringing that forward and working on it together, finalize it.
When do you anticipate the draft document coming forth?
I think that we can move quickly in the next couple of months to finalize it. We can bring it forward in the draft that it is now, but it would have to have a lot of holes in it, because part of the reason of needing the additional time is to understand the fiscal picture better. So I think that we can start working on it together with the draft that we have, but it needs some time to go by, as well as we, that's the reason that we need more time, is to see what kinds of things might impact our ability to go forward with it, finalize it.
I'm kind of a little more direct than other people, so I got a question. What's the hang up? Why can't you say yes today?
Because of the fiscal situation that we're in.
So you say if you can't fiscally go ahead, you might not have the money to take care of a part of it, you don't want to commit to it. Is that
Our responsibility is the operations and the maintenance of the building. And so for me to sign, and the university system and the college to sign the intergovernmental agreement saying that we commit to doing that, and so we move forward with construction without us having a better sense, since our whole fiscal situation changed, and giving us the time to see if that rebounds, how that rebounds, what that is like before we make that commitment.
I think ultimately the formula for our fiscal support of the project has changed, and that formula also involves a foundation too. So we're trying to figure out, where the college is going to be, to know what we need to support fundraising wise. And of course, they've got a lot more moving parts in play than we do. So a lot of that is dependent upon what they come back with as far as USG and the college.
Right, and I mean, it's our state appropriation, which we've received, as I know we all have, but it's also our enrollment. And it's also seeing the way our funding works. Of course, we're looking at impacts for enrollment for this year, impacting the college and our budget for years to come, the way the formula works. So those are some of the things that we need some time to occur, so that we can better assess that in order to produce the IGA that we can sign and feel comfortable with.
I would be in favor of extending the agreement. Give them more time. I remember when we put it on the ballot last time. I wasn't fully convinced until previous president, Mr. Bishop. I don't know if you were here.
I was there.
I was here. And the room was full of people in support, just to put it on the ballot. The fact that we put it on the ballot and then it passed again, we owe it to the voters to do this the right way. And it's, for us to say no to it right now is a slap in the face to anyone who voted for it twice. And again, we owe it to them. But I will say, as time moves on, we all know we've allotted $20 million for this project. That $20 million will be worth a lot less next year than it is this year. So I would suggest we try to get together maybe once every 3 months, just to see where y'all sit, where we're sitting, how funding is coming from federal government, state government, locally, the foundation's doing, and try to get this project moving forward, because if for some reason it doesn't go through, then that same money that we have is still worth less for our projects that we, So yes, I would be in favor of extending it. And two, we've been in partnerships with other governments in the past. And quite frankly, some of them maybe weren't done to the degree I think it sounds like you're wanting to propose it. And we've had to work through those things after the agreement was signed, and it's split the community in the past. That's one thing I don't want to see. I want to see us moving together, because it has passed. The voters have passed it twice. So,
I
do
appreciate
think,
that.
to your point, that'd be a little bit different moving forward versus what was expected previously. I mean, having USG draft something and send it down to y'all, you send it back. I mean, this process would seem to be, we would prefer to be much more of a partnership
Right.
than the IGA. So there are no surprises, whatever the
Right.
results end up being.
It's been an interesting adventure. There were two large items that were on that specific ballot that he's talking about. One of them was Burrs Millette and the other one was this. The communities, Burrs Millette and this, as in St. Simon's Island and a lot of that community and some more other people within the city as well voting for this. I mean, the reason East Boston went was those two items. And we understand that very much. I talked to Mr. Allen, who, him and I are pretty close to similar in what we say and what we do, which is kind of funny in myself. But I don't have an issue waiting. I do have an issue waiting indefinitely. I don't like that. There's been so much lack of communication in it that it's frustrating to me, because, you know, I mean, I've graduated from your school from 3 different places, different names. I would like to see it happen, and I'm in favor of it. There's got to be a deadline. You know, we can't just keep kicking the ball down the road. Elementary school cost about, you know, a little more now, but when we first did it was $20 million, or $22 million. So we're committing something to the community that will not positively affect us as well as an elementary school. But that community voted for it. That's why we have what we have today. So I would be in favor of kicking it down the road, but I got to know how far.
So
That's
we were,
my biggest.
yeah, I
Right.
appreciate that and totally agree. I mean, I think we want this to be moving forward in some productive and positive ways, or we need to know that it can't, right?
Right.
So I am asking for a deadline of June 30th, 2021. So to give us until the end of this fiscal year for us to assess all of those pieces related to, and not that you won't hear from us in that time. And I can appreciate what you're saying about communication. And my approach has been to communicate through the superintendent. And I appreciate, and I know that Superintendent Spence and I have talked about this as well. And we'll continue to do that with him. But if you want my communication to be with you and us to be, we can do that. What I have done is been communicating through your superintendent, but happy to be doing that in some other ways if that's the pleasure of everyone here.
To me, no. That's the leader of our organization, and our part is, it's not every day, and that's what he does. And I would much more have him come back to us and tell us, well, we've discussed it, we're looking at it, things are looking like whatever they mean.
Yeah, great.
I have
Happy to
issues
do
with
that. And that's the way we operated. I just want to make sure that we understand that since I've been here in July of 2018, I've had regular communications with your superintendent. We've talked about it where we are. We have held meetings on my campus with your superintendent and his senior staff. So that is the way we've operated, and happy to continue in that way.
Excuse me, based on the fiscal year, and you're saying June of 2021, will you be prepared to make a decision at that time? Or will you be just prepared to let us know exactly how much more time you would need from that point?
I'm proposing that we set that date as to have the completed IGA process by that
Okay.
date.
All right.
That's what I would suggest. I think that gives us the time we need for a number of financial items to come to fruition. So
Okay.
that's what I would propose.
Thank you.
My confusion with the whole thing is you refer to the budget items and constraints, which we're all doing, and we completely understand. But I'm a little confused as the maintenance and operations is the big thing, I guess, with the whole situation for the IGA. I was under the impression that your budget could not pay for the maintenance and operations. It had to be from the foundation. Is that not the case?
So we're looking at multiple revenue streams, both from some of our operating budget. So we can. The challenge is we're limited. Our funding is now limited.
Mm-hmm.
So what we thought that we could do more easily from our operating budget, that's challenged, and that's where the other revenue stream of private funding needs to grow. And the reliance on that private funding That's one of the pieces we need to better understand. Is it there? Can we get what we need in order to make sure that we can run this? Because our plan was to use both.
And that, you can do that?
Yes.
Okay. I was unaware of that. I thought it had to be all from the foundation as far as the M&O, but, okay. So you're saying as of June 30th, 2021, you would be ready to pull the plug if you didn't have the funds?
I think by that time, we're gonna know the picture. It's gonna be much clearer, and so we're gonna know if we're gonna, you know, that, to me, that's much clearer go, no-go date. Because we will have seen enrollment in 2 semesters. We will know then about how that enrollment's going to affect 2 years of funding for the college. And we'll also know our fiscal year 22 budget before June 30th. So there are a lot of big pieces that occur in that time frame to give us a better sense.
She'll has to deal with them. It's very difficult with USG to budget the way you and I think about budgeting. We'll have a hit this year here locally. Next year, we may not have an issue at all. Hers follows through for 3 years out.
Well, that's what concerns me, to be honest with you, is that, you know, the last thing I want to do is to plan on moving forward, and then June 30th rolls around, and you think everything's fine, and then 8 months to 14 months from there is when you hit the hiccup, and what do we do then? You know? So, and that's some stuff that we could talk about
Yeah.
during the partnership, you know, working through aspect or whatnot, but to me, I agree with you completely. That's one of the reasons that I want to make sure that, you know, we said from day one that, you know, we would raise the 20 million, or the community would raise the 20 million, which they have done, and they voted for it, and I agree with Dr. Yergin as well. I mean, you know, our folks, the community supported it, and I don't think anybody here on this board is debating that. The fact is that we're getting to where we have to make a decision, you know, and move forward, to allude Dr. Yergin's point, because that money can be used for other things, which will in turn save the community money as well, if we use it for the right reasons and the right purposes, which we would do. So I guess it's just a shame that we're having to come to this point to get everything rolling. You know, we've been talking about this for 10 years, Regent Bishop, you know, for getting the thing to go to fruition, and we're still not even, you know, close to an agreement as far as the documentation. So anyway, I mean, I think we can talk about it, try to figure something out, and I guess let you guys know is my stance.
I think we're all here to reassure you. We want to bring closure to it too.
Yes, sir.
So,
I talked to Mr. Bishop today, and talked to Mr. Johnson one time as well, and I think one of my main concerns is like what's the safety valve? Because traditionally, historically, in my 16 years, the Board of Education has been the safety valve, because the money's been there. You know, the fund balance has been there. It happened to us, and it was a painful process. It turned out to be a great thing. But with the Career Academy, as I mentioned, Mr. Bishop today, that, you know, we got 3/4 of the way through that project, and the team was out of money, and we kicked in another $1 million. The county kicks in another $1 million, and so. But I'm here to tell you that we don't have it in our fund balance either. We generally carry 2 months operating in a good year, and after these lawsuits and everything else we've gone through, we're down to a month operating expenses, and we're not like the county. That's sitting on 3 or 4 times with, you know, what their annual budget is. We're not like that, and I don't want us to get down the road and say, oh well, you know what, we missed this piece, and so a year after operating, as Jerry stated, you know, we can't do it anymore, and you're going to have, you know, an empty building on the college campus and nobody to support it, and that's what concerns me. I think we all are after the same thing, but some things just can't be done. If the funds you aren't able to raise them, you know, whether it be privately or through ticket sales or whatever the case might be. I'm not sure. I haven't seen all the consultants' reports and that sort of thing, but.
of course, all those are evolving too. Since
Right, sure. And so, I mean, we wouldn't be here if we weren't in favor of it. We wouldn't have voted for it, and that sort of thing. Put it on the ballot if we weren't in favor of it. So I just hope we can open lines of communication a little better, and again, have open and honest and frank conversations about where we need to be, because what you're telling me now is not what I've been hearing through back channels and other things, but that's not fair either, because we haven't had this conversation. So
I got a question just for, I guess, Judge Lakin. I'm assuming there's no issue pushing this down the road as far as the East Blast goes. I mean, Pinnell, can you speak to that, I guess, as far as...
Where's Mr. Pinnell?
He's right.
Mr. Pinnell, you are clearly the expert. Would you tell the board
where we are with funds carrying over as far as the law in Georgia.
Well, you and I have talked about this several times. There is no, in the constitutional amendment that authorizes the educational SPLOST and in the SPLOST Act itself that controls some parts of it, there's no statutory deadline for the expenditure of the money. There's not like a statute of limitations. There's not something that compels you to do it. When you look at the cases, it's really the reasonable discretion of the board as to the expenditure. And so I think as long as there is a live project there that you are intending to spend the money on, that you're, legal-wise, you're in good standing. Also, in a lot of cases, there will be, I've seen situations where, particularly with smaller school systems or smaller counties, they'll have to go through 2 SPLOST cycles to have enough money to do a project. So I think you're on pretty good footing as long as the project is there. So I think delaying it for a year doesn't jeopardize you at all in the process. Of course, it's all reasonable. At what time is it no longer feasible and you need to redirect the proceeds in another way?
Thank you.
I guess what we're
Yes,
saying
my
is we
question.
don't want another Oglethorpe Convention Center
Oh.
process.
We don't want that either, so.
I would be in favor, I'm not in favor of a year, but I would be in favor of a year, which sounds kind of lame, if you met with him every 3 months and met with us every 6 months and give us real live, unconfusing data saying this is what we're doing, this is what's going on, and we're getting a lot closer and it's looking, 80% yes. Something to give us, to go back to our community and people who say, don't do this, you need that money. And there's people telling us that. And we're like, well, this is what it was voted for. So in order for us to have a decent defense and to tell people we support it, not just from the voters, they, as in y'all, are working on it. We're meeting every 3 months with our superintendent, every 6 months with us. And the buck stops June
30.
2021.
We decide where that dollar's gonna go.
It makes you
Is
feel
that
better.
fair?
We were thinking about even more frequently than that, but yes, we can definitely do the 6
But more frequently is even better. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't be offended
Yeah.
by more frequently. It helps us defend ourselves.
We were thinking once every 2 months at a minimum.
Okay, that sounds good. If that's okay with him, since.
That's fine.
Well, this is not really a votable thing, but I think we could just at least put it out there and say, I think we all agree to that. I don't think it's nothing to vote on. It's just more of a, we kind of set a deadline, but that deadline was more of a, let's see where we're at kind of deadline, if you ask me. But I think if the board, for the most part, sounds like they're all okay with that. It's not a votable thing, but y'all can push through and we'll just keep driving forward and meeting every couple months until we get through this potential year.
Good, with the plan of being back with this group like this in 6 months, so in your December meeting,
That'd be great.
around that time, whenever your meeting is in the December timeframe.
Everybody feel okay with that? I guess it's
Miss Edie,
it's not really a
you got on
vote.
the phone?
What's that?
You on the phone?
Edie's there somewhere. You there, Miss Sims?
Unmute.
I'm here. Yes, I feel like that after hearing the college speak, this is something we should discuss in executive session with just our board before we move forward. It wasn't my understanding that it's not something that the board doesn't need to vote on. I mean, we voted on the original deadline. I'm not sure why we wouldn't need to vote on an extension, but I would like time to discuss amongst our board members.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that. All righty.
Dr. Spence, this has been very inspirational.
Yeah, for the inspiration.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to an executive session, but we'll Dr. Spencer get back with you guys.
Let me tell you, it's hard to attend, for a lawyer to attend a meeting and not be heard somewhat. I would tell you that I'm very proud of the Board of Education, and I say that openly. It's a good board. I represented this board when things were a little different back in the day. But y'all are acting, in my view, very responsibly here, and I think that is a good thing. I think communications are who says what we have here, the failure to communicate. We need to do a better job, and we're going to do a better job of that, no question about it. But I would say to you that I think there's really more at stake here for the college than just this. The university system, or the Board of Regents are getting pressures from all over creation to cut wherever they can cut. This college means a lot to this community, and has since the beginning of time when Mike was out there, and been converted from 2 to 4 years. And I would say that the Board of Regents need, and I think this will send a message to the Board of Regents, that the Board of Education fully supports the mission of the College of Coastal Georgia by this vote, and we're expecting to generate some enthusiasm with respect to this. And I think that'll be good for us. I think it'll be good for the community and good for the college and good for the future of the college. I get thrilled every time I go in any place. A young person working a cash register, or back in the day when you could go in a place when somebody was working a cash register, and you find these young people that are going to college out here, but for that college, they wouldn't be doing that. And they're coming out of the public school system, going into the public higher education system, and it's good for the whole community. And good for them, and good for families. So I appreciate the service, you all, and Mike and I were we were having a big time back there talking about old times that some of you, most of you are not old enough to remember, but we do. Anyway, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight, and the service that y'all give to our community.
Absolutely. Although it's hard for a lawyer not to speak up, it's very easy for a banker to be quiet, for good reasons, but I too appreciate, and as a product of the Glynn County public school system, and what was then Brunswick Junior College, and having had 2 children go through the Glynn County public school system, and one of them be a student at college, I'm all in for K through 16 public education in Glynn County. So we appreciate your support, and we appreciate your patience, and we're going to make this work. It was a great idea to start with. We wanted, when we got the 4-year status, one of the things that everybody was excited about was the college being part of the community, and the community being part of the college, and people in the community coming to the college campus and seeing what's been accomplished, and being more supportive of it. And this Arts Center will bring more people, more local people to that campus. So we dedicate to you that we're going to work a lot harder, and we're going to get this done. And I too want you to know how much I appreciate all you do for our community and our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
On a side note before you go, and I know if you can get some master's programs and doctorate stuff, that'd be great. Say it.
I agree with you.
I know there's lots to do,
I
but
know, but we'll talk later, we've got some things in the works.
I'm not sure if Brittany's still here. I look forward to you guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
If Brittany is not here, then I guess I'll do the spotlight, and that's going to be Mr. Turner and Mr. Blackstone talking about graduation Thursday and Friday. Fire away.
So I guess I can generally just talk about graduation Thursday and Friday this week at 7:30 a.m. at the stadium. We are going to have our 2020 graduation in person finally. Both sides of the stadium are going to be open so that we can allow for distancing. Students can bring their immediate family. We just ask that they distance in the stands so that they are, staying with their family, but a good 6 feet from somebody else's family. It's going to be a little different than in years past. The students are going to come in and go sit down directly in their seat. We'll start the ceremony. The rest of that will look sort of normal. And then when we're finished, we'll march right on out. We'll go straight to the car. Trying to think if there's anything else different about it.
I mean, we're going to hand out masks to the students in practice. We're going to ask them if they want to wear masks to bring them back. We're going to keep them separated on the field. You'll notice that the field will be stretched a lot longer. The only people on the stage will be distanced out as well, so we'll have limited numbers of people on the stage for both graduations. The Southeast Georgia Health Systems is going to be handing out masks. They actually donated all the masks, including the ones that are going to the students for the practice for us tomorrow night. And then, or for both schools, but ours is tomorrow night. And then they're going to be handing them out. They've actually got student volunteers that will be at the gates handing out masks for everybody who walks in the gate. So there should be plenty for everybody. Of course, it is while supplies last. We are asking if folks have masks that they bring them, but we will have them there as well. Right now we're looking at having water for sale, but it's so early in the morning, we think everybody should be hydrated pretty well. We'll get in and out pretty quick. Anticipate our graduation will end
before 9. So we start at 7:30, we will start right at 7:30. Students will be going right to their seats at both graduations. There's not gonna be a processional in, but the recessional out, they're going straight to their cars. We're asking the parents, please work with us in not meeting your children right outside the gate, that you go to your car and celebrate at home. We're doing all of this to try to keep the kids and the community safe. The last thing we need is to have like big congregations and around the stadium. It was what we're all trying to avoid. So it is going to be very different. I've talked to Mr. Turner, and we're actually looking at, once this is all said and done, there's a vaccine, whatever it is, the community, we can go back to doing something normal. We're going to try to do some fun things for the class of 2020, bring them back, maybe a homecoming event, cookout, something that we can honor them, because unfortunately we've had to cancel some things for this week as well because of the upticks in cases in the community. But we look forward to being with them.
Just to add to that, we'd like to ask parents and students to try their very best after graduation to avoid having a big party where a bunch of folks are not distancing. Do their best to do that, because we don't want to go through all these efforts to change graduation to avoid some sort of an issue and then something crop up later. So, any questions from you guys?
What's the participation from the students?
We hear from a few each day that they are wanting to back out. I had, just Brunswick High School, I had 23 from the very initial start of talking about having this now, I had 23 who called right away and said, I want to do it differently. So we did that in the auditorium individually. And then between those 23, between that time and now, 21 or 2 others have said they want out. And we'll see when we get to practice how that really is going to look.
We're about the same. We had 416 graduates for the year, and right now we have 352 who have said that they would be there, or they haven't said anything. We did the same. We set up what we could do with graduation, take a picture if they wanted. Some opted just to get the diploma and move on. Some had to go to the football camps and practices and different sports and different reasons because we had to push it back. But and then what we are making is it is mandatory that they attend practice in order to have that seat on the field for them the next day, because we need to know that they're coming and to kind of have that all set. And so we'll know definitively tomorrow night for GA how many students that we're going to have actually walk across that stage. And so this should be a fun event.
Are we utilizing both sides of the stadium?
Yes, and our students, it's a little different for Glynn, but for us, our students will know which side they are seated on at practice, and so they'll go home and tell their parents, and that will be the side that they instruct their parents to park on. That way we'll force that separation.
So I guess the students will be facing the field house, is that
The opposite way, that it's the scoreboard.
Okay.
Jumbotron will be behind them. And for us, the girls will be sitting on the home side, like on the field, kind of separated. That way we're going to ask, and we're going to tell the kids this tomorrow as well. We've already sent out a letter to the parents a couple times. But the girls come in on the home side and the boys come in on the visitor side. So when you're sitting on the field for us, because of course that's how we're divided, that's how we're asking them to sit, so they don't have to cross over. And then when we proceed out, they will walk straight off the field. Nobody will be allowed on the field. The students will go straight out into the parking lot, and that's where we're asking them, because that's really the only area of concern. It's outside of our control, that once they go, they just go straight out to their cars and meet their parents.
But we have SROs breaking that type of stuff up. I think the whole thing for the community is we just need to promote the fact that the goal of the whole thing is to be able to have the kids walk across the stage. I mean, we know we can't do the full compass of, everybody on the field, taking pictures, everybody in the parking lot having a great time and all that stuff. That's not our goal. Our goal is to have graduation so the kids can actually walk across the stage and receive their diploma. That's what we're trying to achieve. So I think we need to really push that with the kids is, look, we're lucky that we're available to do this, for this one procedure, rather than doing what we had talked about, virtual, or doing something on the front of the building, or, through the car or the drive line or whatever. We're lucky we can do this part. So we really need them to drive home to their parents, or their guardians, or whoever's coming to graduation, that, let's focus on being able to support the idea of being able to walk across the stage and get your diploma like normal, and we can party at the house or celebrate when we get back home.
One of the things that I just want to make sure we're clear, there were some concerns about the information that came out about, the immediate family in the last couple of days, but we're basing off what the health department says we should do. Again, that's what, because everybody's working off of today's information, which could change for tomorrow. And so we're just doing the best we can at the schools to give the kids what we feel like they deserve, but also to kind of keep our community safe. I mean, that's what like we're all saying, just if we could get people to help us with that, I think that would be huge across the board.
And just to add to that, if anybody's feeling unwell that day, if they're not doing well, or if they're not sure about coming, anybody can access the program through the YouTube channel, same YouTube channel that folks are watching now, and we're going to do our best to make sure that it's on Channel 99 locally, and streaming through IMENT-media/GA grad or EHS grad, and that link will be on all of our social media. So if anybody's not sure about it, or if they just want to stay away, they can definitely watch it in that way, and they can buy a DVD.
And it is South Georgia in July. Even at 7:30 in the morning, it can be hot. So if you have heat issues, please just watch it on TV.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk around in circles, but hopefully you'll get it all. The first thing I'm going to say is that I really appreciate the graduation, because I think it's very important for the kids when they reach this milestone to be able to walk across the stage. On the other side of the circle is I don't agree with it being this week. The coronavirus and everything that's going on in the hospital right now, as a medical professional, I'm right in the middle of it. I know exactly what's going on. It's not a good idea. I told Dr. Spence I would be much more comfortable if we looked at it in 2 weeks. I know there's time constraints, and you're making the decisions, and I appreciate that. It is important for the kids to do what they're going to do. The key element here is, one thing, we're in national news because we are doing so not so good. So we need to be very, very careful with this, because we don't want it on CNN or any of the other television saying, this is what they did in Glynn County. So they're not going to care that it was important for the kids to cross the stage. They're going to dramatize people being together. The key element is to keep people separated, and not everything that y'all mentioned goes through. It's very important, because this community is getting pretty beat up with this stuff right now. And we just don't want them to spread it around even worse. So my opinion is, it's a bad idea this week. I'd do it in 2 weeks. But thank you very much for doing it. I know that's
well, and I'll just point this out. I mean, one of the reasons that we talked about immediate family is that there's room enough for 12,000 some odd folks inside that stadium. And if parents, those immediate family members who are coming, will keep that in mind and not congregate on one end of the stadium or one place. There's a video camera. You're going to be able to see it. We have the biggest jumbotron in the state of Georgia over somewhere, I don't know. But people can see, and you will be able to hear from the entire stadium. So please, when you're there, take time to get there early so that you can arrive with your family group, and you can distance, and then you can find a seat and distance away from others. And then when we're done, go get in your car and go home and celebrate.
Last thing, the first 2 rows, if we could, and we're telling the kids all of this information, we're telling you guys too, or again, when we tell the kids, sometimes it always doesn't get to the parents, but those first 2 rows on both sides, if we could reserve that for handicap, sometimes that becomes an issue. Here, want to sit, they don't want to go up a couple stairs. In this case, if you're physically fit and able, you need to hike, because we do want to try to spread some folks out, and we are all in the same agreement. If we can keep people doing the smart thing, the right thing, this is going to be a great event, and then that's what we're here for. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that brings us down to citizens address the board, which there were none tonight. Alrighty, which brings us down to approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we suspend the rules for purposes of amending the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Say that again?
I make a motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of amending the agenda.
And Mr. Mansell second that. All those in favor? Ms. Sams, are you still there? It's unanimous. Let me
I'm sorry, I am here, I just couldn't get it unmuted fast enough.
Okay.
I didn't hear what the motion was.
Mike's going, asking to suspend the rules so we can amend the agenda.
Okay. Yep.
Got it?
All right.
Okay, you good? All right, all in favor then? 7-0. Motion passes 7-0.
All right, so we just wanted to add something, right?
I think we're gonna add the East Bloss 4 resolution.
To what number?
Where would you like to add that? I guess it doesn't really. I guess it can go under, yeah, because it'll go underneath facilities. So how about we'll do C, we'll put it as C2 on the agenda. And that will be to approve the East Bloss 4 resolution. That's good? Okay. Yes, Mr. Holsey?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Holsey and then Mr. Mansell. All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0 to amend the agenda. All right, so now we just drop down to consent. All right. All right, number 7 is consent agenda. I would like to do 8, 9, 10A, 10B, 10C1. Any policy stuff, John? 10D, 10E2, 10E3, 10E5, and 10E7.
Can you hold 7?
Yep, I'll pull 7. Thanks a lot, John. Catch me up. My paper looks like it's been marked up. Any additions or deletions?
Marcus, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you included section D, and there is an attachment there, but the attachment is the special education services supporting document that's also included down in E3. So it doesn't appear there's anything to vote on in D.
Right, and Mr. McDowell said that we will still throw that, so we won't vote on D. So we'll add that.
Yeah.
Okay, so add D.
No,
Or, excuse me,
I don't think there's anything in D.
there's nothing in D? Okay.
No.
And that's why we're adding it, right?
Yeah, we're adding it
Just-
just to not vote. We're consenting that, since there's nothing to vote on.
Okay. Okay.
What about E1? The office equipment.
I've got that still off. We want to talk about it. I just figured, well, we can add it. I just gonna, anything with a dollar amount, I tend to like to present it, but
Do gooder.
try to shoot for the
1,
stars.
4, 6.
Any additions or deletions? All right, I'll accept it, or I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Get
Second.
that to Mr. Medalla, second by Ms. Sams. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 7-0. And I'm gonna do my best to get through my paper, or hopefully Dr. Spence has made notes of everything, because my paper looks pretty good. Okay, well, I'll turn it over to Dr. Spence in for, I guess we're at personnel.
So you got C2, you got the East Bloss right there?
Yep, they're gonna be 10C2 for the East Bloss resolution.
So I'm making a okay, so it seemed like you guys talked about putting on the board agenda next time, or you guys wanted to make a vote tonight?
I think,
I want to make a motion, we approve the East Bloss 4 resolution. Thank you.
the motion's on the table by Mr. Holsey. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Bobbitt? Any discussion?
I'm sorry, it's hard to attend these meetings over the phone as I've learned. Can you just explain to me what we're voting on right now?
Okay, right now, we are voting on to approve the eSPLOS 4 resolution, which is what Mr. Pinnell presented to us. Now, this can be modified between now and then, or this is just to give us, I'm going to let Mr. Lakin speak to it, Ms. Sams.
Ms. Sams and board members, the resolution will now go to the Board of Elections. They'll vote on it, and this will be advertising starting August 3rd in order to get the number of advertisements 90 days prior to the election in November. So we thought about waiting a couple weeks and going to maybe a special called meeting. But in hindsight, if it's voted on tonight, we can get the paperwork immediately to the Board of Elections, and then they can't say, well, you didn't get it to us in a timely fashion. So there's a motion to approve it tonight. And that's on the floor now.
I'm confused as to whether we're talking about putting it on the consent agenda as the item C2.
No, it's not being considered. Well, Mr. Halsey brought it up for a vote.
Okay.
So it's not being considered. Mr. Halsey made a motion to
That's why we
to approve it.
I mean, agenda, that's why we
Okay.
made a
Before
amendment.
Yes.
The bottom line is you're voting to either put it on the vote or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's a motion by Mr. Halsey, second by Ms. Bobbitt, and we had some discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. So I guess, Mr. Lakin, do we need to do that now, or is that something we can do?
No, after the meeting, we have the hard copy to be signed tonight.
Okay.
And then I'll be taking it to the Board of Elections
Okay.
tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
I recommend that we approve the Golden Hours Office Equipment Lease Agreement.
I think the amount was $52,658.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Halsey,
Second.
second by Ms. Bobbitt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Make a motion that we approve the change order for Edo Miller and Lanier fencing, which, by the way, gives us money back.
Is a credit I wrote down here, which I believe is $48,628.20.
Exactly. Second.
So Mr. Halsey, Reverend Bobbitt with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
I recommend that we approve the IXL Learning Diagnostic Software.
That was an amount, I think, of $274,623.
So moved.
Second.
Reverend Bobbitt with the motion, second with Mr. Halsey. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. And Mr. Maddow wanted to pull the 2020 GCS surplus computers, correct?
Yes, I did. I forgot.
Dang it, Mark.
Sorry.
We could have done that.
All right, so I guess
I recommend that we approve the Glynn County School System's surplus computer for 2020.
Second. So moved.
all right. Motion by Ms. Bobbitt. I need a second, please.
Second.
Dr. Yerrigan. Any discussion?
Just a little.
Okay, go ahead.
There's 266 Chromebooks, and we don't know how many kids are going to be at home that might need something like that, and I think it's a bad idea to sell it right now. As I always say, it's a bad idea to sell the computers and not have enough, but that's all. I'll continue.
My understanding is these computers are not functional at this point in time, that we do have enough to let kids use. But I don't think these computers are functional at this point in time for us.
I think they still, when I talked to them for the last decade, it's been that they still work, they're just not upgraded enough.
Right.
What they always tell me. But like I always say, which is my rebuttal, is that it'll probably work enough for a basic program for a elementary school student. So I would guesstimate. And now you can get Word and all of that an office. You get that for free in a school system anyway, so they have that at the other levels. But that's just my opinion, for what it's worth.
Thank you, Mr. Medalla. Any further discussion?
Not me.
I certainly don't have a problem waiting a month to see if we can use those, if you want to wait a month until the next board meeting and bring it up. I don't have a problem finding that answer out, if it's that important.
That makes sense. I think that's a good idea. Maybe even a month or two when we are in the middle of the process of school and we're identifying if that is something that could be possibly used.
Well, it's my understanding that they're wiped clean, and you can't use them because they're not supported. Is that
No, in order to sell them, they'd have to be
They
wet.
already been like, look at, they want to say something.
If you want me to speak, I will.
Yes, please speak to it.
The HP computers
Steven.
that are going out on lease this time, we've had a ton of problems with. Parts dying, and at this point they are out of warranty. We wipe them clean. Operating system, software, everything. So if the student if we do keep them and give them to the students, they're gonna have to go out and buy Windows for these machines because they no longer have a license of Windows. That, you're looking at $100 right off the bat after buying a computer. Like you said, you can get Office for free, downloading Office 365, as long as you're still a student of the school system. No? Just teachers?
We don't give licenses for students for
Okay, so that's just teachers. So then they'll have to either get Open Office, which is the freeware, which somewhat works, or they'll have to buy Office as well. The biggest thing you're looking at with these is being 4 years old. These we've had a ton of issues with. We've had stacks of these sitting around because they ran out of warranty a year ago, where parts have just died, and we pull from this machine to make a Franken computer because they're going out. So I mean, if you turn around and sell these to a kid for $50, in a year they're going to die. Also, there's no Chromebooks; those are ProBooks. That's just their name of their laptop. So they're Windows machines. And if we wait, I know a lot of the schools are starting to do their hallways, scrubbing their hallways, which is where the machines are stored currently. And the principals are trying to figure out what to do with them. So if we hold off for another month, I don't know where we would put all of them.
Hearing that, any further discussion?
Maybe sell them and buy hand sanitizer. I mean, I'm just
No,
saying,
yeah.
if it was $100,000 or something, that's a lot of money.
I just think there's a lot of moving parts to make them presentable to kids, and and my thing is the ones that we'd be giving them to don't have probably
They
the
don't
extra
have the
$100
money.
to put the machine together.
Exactly.
I think it'd be a better policy just to look at how we go one-to-one down the road and get there quick as we possibly can.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we do sell them, can we earmark the money to buy Chromebooks or something like that?
Not that she does that. That part she does. I mean, Andre will tell you, yeah, I need this, and it offset the last time we had to buy.
So we're already doing that?
She does that.
Yeah.
Okay. John's saying we already do that.
Well, refresh, but I didn't know if we could buy some outside of the refresh with that surplus money, or if it's already earmarked for the refresh.
I think in the other meeting, she said it was earmarked already for the refresh. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's what she said.
I think that's what I heard too, but
Yeah, I think it's already
to
earmarked for
offset.
us.
But
Okay.
I thought she put it back in general fund, but I'll find that
Oh,
out
okay.
too.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Well, we've got a first and a second on there. I'm just going to bring it to a vote, and we can go from there. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 5 to.
I feel like I have enough information.
You'll vote.
She voting no? Is that what she's saying?
You want to vote? I mean, you can vote no if you want.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think we should vote, so I'm voting no.
Okay.
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 Well, we
The
won't
motion
do that.
passes 5-2. Good deal. Alrighty. All right, that gets us through everything there. Do we want to, can we go in executive session for a few minutes just to discuss?
Legal.
Okay, going for legal. Land wouldn't touch that? Okay. So I'll make a motion to go into executive
moved.
session for legal at 7:30.
So moved.
Mr. Bobbitt. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Medella. All those in favor? It's unanimous at 7:30.
Go back in open session.
Motion by Dr. Jurgen to go back in. Can I get a second?
Second.
A second by Reverend Bobbitt.
Got a screen.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're back from executive session at 8:07 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Bobbitt,
Second.
second by Dr. Jurgen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all out of here at 8:07.
Okay, you guys.
Miss Sams, thank you for your
I'm
patience
gonna
on the
send
other
you
line.
a text tomorrow.